You convinced yourself you miss her. But pause for a second. Do you miss her? Or do you miss the way she made you feel? There's a difference between missing someone and missing what they gave you, between love and convenience, between growth and comfort seeking. Your ex knows which one you're really after. The question is, do you? Because if you're honest about your real motivation, you might realize you're not ready to reach out at all. Your brain tricks you into thinking you know why you're reaching out. That late-night text feels random. That sudden urge to check her social media feels innocent. But your subconscious is running a program you don't even see. Most people convince themselves they miss their ex when they're really chasing something else entirely. Something that has nothing to do with love and everything to do with what you're avoiding in your current life. Here's what's really happening. You're not missing her. You're missing what she represented. The comfort, the validation, the version of yourself that felt secure. Your brain doesn't distinguish between missing a person and missing a feeling. It just knows something is gone and wants it back. The first motivation is nostalgia. And nostalgia hits hardest when you're struggling. Your mind rewrites history, making the past feel safer than it was. You remember the good conversations, the inside jokes, the way she laughed at your stories. But you conveniently forget the arguments, the emotional distance, the reasons you broke up in the first place. Research shows nostalgia spikes during periods of stress and loneliness. When life gets heavy, your brain seeks comfort in familiar places. She becomes the symbol of easier times. You're not remembering her accurately. You're remembering the version of yourself that felt secure. The man who had someone to come home to. Someone who cared about your day. Someone who made you feel wanted. That feeling of being chosen, of mattering to someone, becomes intoxicating when it's gone. But that's not love. That's emotional dependency disguised as affection. The second motivation is ego. You saw her thriving without you. Maybe she posted new photos. Maybe someone mentioned she's doing well. Maybe you heard she's dating someone new. Suddenly, you need to know if you still matter. If the door is still open. If you can still make her respond. This isn't about wanting her back. This is about testing your power, seeing if you can still stir something in her heart. Your ego can't handle being forgotten. It needs proof that what you had was special, that she still thinks about you, that some part of her still wants you back. So you craft that casual message, that "how are you" text, that random memory you decide to share. You tell yourself you're being friendly, but you're really fishing for validation. You want her to respond quickly, to seem happy to hear from you, to give you evidence that you still have influence over her emotions. The third motivation is genuine regret. This one exists, but it's rare. Most people confuse guilt with growth. They feel bad about how things ended and mistake that feeling for personal development. Real regret requires facing uncomfortable truths about yourself. It means acknowledging the patterns that destroyed the relationship. It means doing actual work to become a different person. Genuine regret doesn't rush back with explanations. It doesn't need immediate forgiveness. It understands that words are cheap and actions tell the real story. If you've truly grown, you know she doesn't owe you anything. Not her time. Not her attention. Not another chance. You reach out because you want to make things right, not because you want something from her. But here's the part that stings. Most men think they're in the third category when they're really in the first two. They convince themselves they've changed because they feel bad about their behavior. They mistake awareness for transformation. They know what they did wrong, so they assume they won't do it again. But knowing and changing are completely different things. The difference between missing someone and missing what they gave you determines everything that happens next. One comes from love. The other comes from need. One respects her boundaries. The other pushes past them. One is patient. The other is urgent. One can wait for the right time. The other can't wait at all. Here's how to tell which category you're really in. Ask yourself why now? Why today? Why this moment? If your answer involves your current struggles, your loneliness, or your need for validation, you're not ready. If your answer involves her well-being and making amends without expecting anything in return, you might be. She's not reading your words. She's reading your pattern. Every text you send tells a story about who you've become since the breakup. You might think you're being casual, strategic, even charming. But she can see exactly which type of person you are within the first message. Your approach reveals everything about your growth or lack of it. You think you're being subtle, but she can see exactly which type of person you are within the first message. The timing, the tone, the effort level, the excuses you make or don't make. She's watching for the same red flags that ended your relationship in the first place. And if you haven't changed, she'll spot them immediately. The breadcrumber sends low-effort messages with no real plan. A like on her Instagram story, a random hey at midnight, a comment about something you saw that reminded you of her. You're testing waters without commitment. You want to see if she'll respond without actually putting yourself out there. It's emotional window shopping. You browse, but you don't buy. She recognizes this immediately. It feels lazy because it is lazy. You want her attention without earning it. You want access to her emotional space without offering anything real in return. The breadcrumber enjoys the validation and control it offers. You get a little hit of dopamine when she responds, proof that you still matter, but you're not prepared to follow through with anything meaningful. Breadcrumbing is a manipulative tactic where someone offers inconsistent gestures of interest to keep another person engaged without any intention of pursuing a committed relationship. You send sporadic messages or social media interactions. The goal is to maintain her interest and emotional dependence rather than fostering a genuine connection. You keep her on the hook while you figure out what you actually want. The hooverer comes in fast with love bombing and big promises, then disappears just as quickly. You flood her phone with paragraphs about how much you've missed her, how sorry you are, how different things would be this time. You shower her with affection and grand gestures, overwhelming her with intensity she hasn't felt since you were together. She's seen this movie before, the intensity followed by silence, the pattern that never changes. You come in like a hurricane of emotion and promises. But once the initial excitement wears off, once she starts to respond, you pull back. The same commitment issues that ended your relationship resurface. The same fear of vulnerability kicks in. You realize you're not actually ready for what you promised. Love bombing is a tactic where someone overwhelms another with affection and promises early in a relationship, only to withdraw later. This can be a form of manipulation, as the initial intensity is used to create a sense of dependency. You use the emotional high to make her forget why you broke up. But the crash always comes, and she remembers why she needed to protect herself from you. The accountable man shows up different. Steady, honest, no pressure. He acknowledges where he failed without making excuses. He doesn't blame the timing, the circumstances, or her reactions. He owns his part completely. He doesn't rush back with explanations or demands for immediate forgiveness. He understands that his words are cheap and his actions tell the real story. This man has done actual work on himself. Not just surface-level awareness, but deep, uncomfortable change. He reaches out not because he needs something from her, but because he wants to make things right. He respects her boundaries. He doesn't push for responses or meetings. He gives her space to process and decide what she wants. Here's what's really going on. Your approach reveals whether you've grown or you're still running the same programs that ended the relationship. The breadcrumber is still selfish, wanting attention without responsibility. The hooverer is still unstable, making promises he can't keep. The accountable man has learned to put her well-being before his own needs. The question isn't what you're saying. It's what your behavior is screaming. She's not just listening to your words. She's watching your actions, the consistency or lack of it, the respect you show for her space, the way you handle her responses or silence. Your behavior tells her everything she needs to know about whether you've actually changed. The man who's ready doesn't need to convince anyone. His actions speak first. He doesn't chase responses or demand immediate forgiveness. He shows up consistently without expecting anything back. Stop dragging her back into your confusion. Either do the work or walk away with grace. Don't pull her into your emotional chaos because you can't sit with your loneliness. That's not love. That's selfishness. Your character isn't measured by whether she responds. It's measured by why you reached out in the first place. Were you seeking comfort for yourself? Or were you genuinely trying to make things right for her?